hospital charges. For over 20 years, Jacqueline Grady has assisted businesses and employees in navigating the various federal and state laws governing discrimination, overtime pay, and fiduciary duty under healthcare plans. If your health insurance premiums are exploding, deductibles increasing, and are still receiving surprise medical bills, contact Grady Legal PA, as a high percentage of bills contain incorrect or fraudulent charges. If you want an evaluation of whether there has been a violation of discrimination or wage laws, contact Grady Legal today at 754-333-0313, 754-333-0313.
This program is furnished by Ask the Experts.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law, LLC. Sit back for the next half hour as host Steve-O interviews top experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Steve-O offers such educational topics as community association law, family law, chiropractic care, employment law, healthcare law, and public insurance adjusting. Interviews by top experts in their field. And now, here's your host, Steve-O.
And welcome to the Ask the Expert Show. I am your host, Steve-O. We're supposed to be on every Thursday night from 6 to 7 with some of the finest experts in Florida. And this is crazy. Tonight, our new show, which I'm so excited about, because we're going to be talking about how to get out of a timeshare. And they are doing shows with us all over the country. And we had the same problem in Philadelphia with Zoom. I don't see Fox ever having a problem with that, only us. But we are here. Let me introduce you to our expert, Andy Meyer from Finn Law Group. Hi, hey, Andy.
Good evening, Steve.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good, buddy. Man, this is something, isn't it? But you know what? It's technology, and it's
the thing. Yep.
And we've been doing this show for 6 years, and rarely do we have this problem. But we're going to have you on for an extra 10 minutes tonight, so at least it'll be a good drive. And we've got so much, Andy, to talk about, because I didn't realize so many people not only have a timeshare, but want to get out of it. So you're in the perfect position.
This is the thing, Steve. It's big business here in Florida. The timeshare industry, as you can imagine, the Orlando area is a hotbed of timeshare resorts, and of course South Florida has its share as well. And folks from all over the world really flock to Florida for our weather and hospitality, and oftentimes they leave with something a little bit extra that maybe they didn't think they were going to get. You know, that's the funny thing about timeshare. Nobody really is sitting around at home and thinking to themselves, you know, I would love to have a timeshare. What a great thing to buy. You know, this is one of those things where most people, you hear what we hear from, they were enticed to go to a timeshare presentation in exchange for something like maybe discounted Disney tickets or free, hotel room or something. And the pitch is, if you come sit in for a couple hours and listen to this timeshare presentation, then you get this nice gift. And of course, what we hear from a lot of our clients is that's just the beginning of quite a lengthy day. It isn't just the presentation, but a lot of high pressure sales tactics. And really, even within the timeshare industry itself, they'll admit that timeshare is a today only product. You go, you listen to the pitch, and you either buy that day or you're never going to buy a timeshare. So, of course, this is what we hear from folks quite a bit, is that they felt unduly pressured. They didn't understand what they were buying, and now they find themselves with this little bit of something extra they didn't really want when they went on vacation. So this
Andy,
is,
it's
yeah.
there's people driving home right now. Maybe someone just tuned in. We're not selling you timeshares here. We're actually going to tell you Andy's an attorney, and he is going to tell you tonight, as an attorney that specializes, he can't say that I can, and he specializes in getting people out of the timeshare. And what I love about Andy, and I've learned about Andy, he's not going to blow smoke up you. If he can do something for you, he's going to tell you. Because, Andy, you look at Yelp and you see a lot of these national timeshare companies who make all kind of promises to you up front, and they turn out not to be true. And it's so obvious you're not like that.
Well, I appreciate that, Steve. And this is, I think, very important for people to understand. There's a lot of timeshare exit companies out there, and they make guarantees that they have a secret sauce of some sort to get you out of your timeshare. And unfortunately, we don't see that to be the case. We get folks from all over the country that have bought timeshares, and when you buy one, it's a binding legal contract. At least that's what it purports to be. And the timeshare companies surely think so. So, exit companies usually are not staffed by lawyers, almost never. Sometimes they associate with lawyers, but it's oftentimes difficult to get a lawyer to actually look at your case. At the Finn Law Group, we've been doing this since 2011. Michael Finn is the founder of the firm. I work closely with Michael. And, we look at people's contracts. We help them understand what they bought, what they've gotten themselves into, and what are the options available to them to get them out. It's
Andy, do they
as you
allow
said,
you? Do the timeshare companies allow you to have an attorney look over the contract before they sign it?
I wish that were the case. That's certainly something that it would make a lot of difference if you could. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. One of the things that happens at a timeshare sale is you're actually typically, not always, of course, it depends on the resort, but typically you're buying an actual piece of what's known as real estate, a real estate interest, and you get a deed, and then you get title insurance. And there's a lot of regulations, as you can imagine, Steve, about how real estate can be sold. It has to be overseen by a licensed real estate broker or salesperson. And there's all kinds of rules and regulations that govern real estate title insurance. And one of the things that really is supposed to happen is you're supposed to be able to get your own title insurance. When you buy your own home, if you had a title agent or a title insurance company that you liked, or you're using a lawyer or a real estate salesperson that has a title insurance company they like, you get that option. But with the timeshare sales, we see in practical reality, because it's a today only purchase, that's not really an option for folks. You can't do that. Now, what I can do for people, and would be happy to help anyone who's just recently bought a timeshare, you get a 10-day rescissionary cool-off period. So if you just bought it, you get home, you decide to take a look at that giant stack of documents that they handed to you at the closing table, and you think, oh my gosh, I don't really understand what I've done. Call me quickly. We can take a look. If you're within a 10-day window, you can rescind the purchase, but you have to be careful. You got to make sure you get it done. You got to do registered mail oftentimes to get that in and make that effective. We've seen some folks get tripped up on that, and depending on the developer, again, we've seen developers, if that thing is one day late, they're not going to honor it. They're not going to honor that rescissionary period.
Those people, I got to tell you, Andy, they're slicker than a used car salesman. Those people, I remember I had a guy said, "What do you mean you got to ask your wife? What are you, some kind of a wuss? You got to see if it's okay with your wife? Sign it now. Show her who's boss."
Absolutely. We hear that quite a bit from our clients, the various techniques they use. It's quite something, really. And it's interesting, there's definitely a group of folks that are really good at selling timeshare, and they tend to stay within the industry. And sometimes they work for different resorts over the years, but use the same tactics. And so, this is something that we can help you with if that's happened to you. It's important to note, Steve, sometimes people are reluctant to get help because, they do feel duped and a bit snookered, and maybe they're a little embarrassed to come forward and say, hey, I think I might have gotten myself into a bad deal. And I like to tell people, please don't feel embarrassed. Very, very smart, educated, highly educated people. We have lawyers as clients. We've had an astronaut as a client. Doctors will be clients. People who absolutely, very smart, intelligent people have gone to a timeshare presentation and come out the backside with a timeshare, and they realized later it's not something that they wanted, not something that they thought they got a good deal on. So
Andy,
it's
what are
important to
some of
reach
the
out.
reasons that people, when they come to you, about why they want to get out of their timeshare?
It runs the gamut, but a lot of times people come to us because they've aged out. In other words, they maybe had a younger family, did a lot of traveling, and now that's not the case. So the timeshare here in Florida doesn't make sense. For instance, if you've gotten one near Disney World, and now your kids are too old, they don't want to go. We have people who, in retirement, don't want to pay for it anymore, or they've had an illness. A lot of folks, come down unexpectedly with something. Sometimes we get clients reaching out to us where it's been their parents that have owned the timeshare, and now they're, in an advanced age, and the kids realize, oh gosh, we're still getting bills for this thing. What do we do to get rid of it? Nobody's been using it. Nobody wants it. Uh, what do we do now? And it's interesting about the timeshare product. It's really unique in that it's not something you can get rid of easily. A lot of people think the first thing they think, and it's a natural thought, of course, is, well, I paid a lot of money for this thing, so maybe I can sell it to somebody else. That might be a way to try to get rid of it. And listen, if you had a very fancy timeshare, maybe you were in a timeshare in Vail, Colorado, and the high ski season, why that timeshare might have value on the resale market. Maybe somebody would want to buy that. But for most people, the timeshare interest that they have is not something they can resell. And all you need to do to confirm that is take a look at eBay and see how many folks are on there trying to sell timeshares for $1. Timeshares that they've paid a lot of money for over the years, and they just want to get out from underneath it. And Steve, highlights the problem that you'd pay for the timeshare to start with, and a lot of folks finance that, and it's expensive to do so. But even after you've paid for it, you get annual maintenance fees, and those annual maintenance fees keep going up and up, and they don't stop. So this is what oftentimes drives people to come to us and say, this isn't something we want anymore. What can we do?
Andy, the timeshares have been around for a long time. What's the difference in timeshares now versus a long time ago? Is there a difference?
Yeah, there really is, yes. And I think, timeshares began simple enough. The idea was people were liking to travel to the same places. So it made sense that you might buy an actual unit and week, say, down somewhere on the beach. And it was a good idea that once a year you knew you could take your family to that place the same time and have the same unit. And maybe you made friends or you went with friends. That was the idea. But people's travel habits have changed over the years. And now people want more flexibility, with Airbnb and VRBO and all these things available online. The expectation is that you can pretty much find a place to stay anywhere. And so to keep up with that, timeshare has evolved and changed. And now instead of just simply owning a unit a week, really what happens in most instances is you get points. So you do have a unit in a week, which obligates you to pay annual maintenance fees. But the pitch is that you're going to get points that you can use to make reservations at timeshare resorts at other places. And this is where we see some problems come in. Folks don't understand how the points work. They don't understand what they can actually reserve. They try to make reservations and they feel like they can't make them where they want to. And it gets really complicated because it's no longer simply a unit a week that you actually can say is yours. and now it's a thing where you just have these points and really like a right to make a reservation, to try to make a reservation,
Okay.
and and that's a tough proposition.
Andy, can you walk me through? So I want to, I've got to get, I mean, with the economy the way it is now, and I've got to get out of my timeshare. Walk me through. I make a phone call to your office, and then what happens after that?
So the first thing I like to tell people to do, and we will tell you to do when you call us, is it's worth a call to the resort where you bought the timeshare first. Be careful, because sometimes the timeshare resort will use it as an opportunity to try to upsell you or
Oh,
convince you to buy more. So you got to be careful. But other times, and some resorts, depends on the resort, will listen to you. And there are some hardship programs available, and some resorts are recognizing this problem with the timeshare product, and they're saying, we've got to find an off ramp for people. They've been paying, say, 30 years, and they don't want to travel anymore. And so we find that there are some more reasonable resorts. So it's always worth the first step. Reach out to the resort and try to negotiate with them yourself, with the caveat that you be careful and don't get snookered into something that you didn't, really want. But if that doesn't work, and unfortunately, many times it doesn't work, and then that's where you want to call us and have us give you an assist. What we'll do is we'll interview you, get to understand what your situation is, where you bought, when you bought, what you have, and we have questionnaires you fill out, and then we ask you for your documents. Because the other thing that's funny, Steve, is how many times we have clients who think they understand what they bought, but
right.
once we get a chance to get our hands on the documents, they bought something completely different, and they don't understand that. So that's kind of a first step, getting your arms around the problem. What do you got? So when you reach out to us, that's what we're doing. We're trying to get our arms around the problem, and then we can start talking to you about what can be done. And it's, you said it earlier, not prone to blowing sunshine, because you typically, if you're trying to get out of your timeshare, you're in a tough spot. Um,
And they know
it's
it
an
too.
and they know it. That's right, and they know it. And so I don't often have rosy answers for people. I wish I did. So what we have to talk about are, well, what are the best options out of maybe a few different bad ones? What's the least bad? So these are the kinds of things that you get with an attorney who can talk to you, because it isn't just necessarily looking at the timeshare contract. The timeshare exit companies like to make it seem like it's just this commodity, like, you're tired of your cars, so you just give it to them and they'll take care of it. But really, there's oftentimes a lot of different things that go around with why you're wanting out of the timeshare. Maybe you found yourself inheriting it, or you're concerned about a parent who's going to have it in your estate, and you want to try to get out from underneath it before that happens. Maybe you're in a divorce situation. We have folks reaching out to us in that situation, where you've been recently divorced and had a nasty surprise that the timeshare is still owned by both you and your ex-spouse. Now what? Folks have financial problems. Of course, that's a real issue, and they want to get out from underneath this never-ending obligation. So they reach out to us, and we'll walk you through what can be done. But the other thing, Steve, it's tricky, because sometimes people have circumstances where they got to be really careful in choosing when they try to solve the timeshare problem. So as an example, if you happen to be in the military, or you have a top secret clearance, something like that, you got to think long and hard before you start tussling with a timeshare company. That could have negative repercussions for you.
Right.
So that's something that, I promise you, an exit company is not going to tell you about. They're going to tell you it's all going to be fine. Listen to my guarantee. So these are the kinds of things we like to talk to people about and help them make a decision.
So I'm thinking about two things. One is, if I try to do it myself, I might give them information not knowing that could hurt me. And the other thing is, I would much rather have an attorney walk in rather than myself. I think I'm going to get better results with an attorney. Am I right about that?
So yeah, Steve.
Not always. I understand.
Not always. That's right, of course. And this is the thing we like to talk to people and get their arms around the problem. And what we do, we charge a one-time upfront fee for folks so they can kind of make that decision. Like, well, do I think I'm going to get value out of the FinLaw Group services? What is the cost benefit analysis for me? And because we know this area so well and we have been practicing in it for as long as we have, we have a sense of what resorts are likely to do when we reach out to them. And we kind of have a track history with resorts. And so that's not necessarily something that you're going to know, kind of like the doctor who's seen this, the same kind of problems over and over. He can give you a better prognosis because he's seen so many people with the same type of problem. That's kind of where we're coming from, a vantage point of having seen a lot of people with timeshare problems and dealt with the various resorts. And as I've been mentioning, there's some resorts that are more cooperative than others. And so that's part of the news we can deliver is, hey, you happen to have bought from a better resort to work with, and there's, more hope for you and a quick and easier resolution. Or, unfortunately you bought from a resort that doesn't like to give in and work with folks and is going to stand the line. And so, as lawyers, what we try to do is the way I think about it is this: you've signed a contract and you go to the resort and you say, hey, I don't want to perform under this contract anymore for whatever reasons. And the resort says, tough luck for you. You signed it. We're going to enforce it to its letter. So what a lawyer can help you do is look at the contract and see, are there any problems with it? Are there any, loopholes? Are there any I's that weren't dotted, T's that weren't crossed? Are there any arguments that you can make to justify, your desire to get out? And that's what lawyers do. That's what lawyers are all about, is helping you understand what's in the contract, what you're obligated to do, and what remedies you might have if you don't want to continue to perform underneath it.
Andy's with the FinLaw Group. Give everybody your phone number. We're going to go to break.
Yes. So you asked me this the other day, Steve, and I should have committed it to memory.
It's okay.
That's where getting up there is kind of tough.
Yeah, you look real old, Andy.
Yeah, I have 4 kids, so
No,
that'll age me.
You're too young to have 4 kids.
Not only do I have 4 kids, Steve, but I have 2. One is in college, one that's in high school, and then I have one that's 2.5 and one that's 4 months. So
wow,
I got the whole gamut. It keeps me busy, keeps me hopping.
I think it's 855, isn't it?
Yes, it's yes, sir. And now, of course, I'm not finding it here. It's 855 FinLaw.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That is a number. Yeah, so it's 855-346-6529. 855-346-6529. You can get us on the internet at FinLaw, FINNlaw.com. And I believe it's 855 FinLaw, the number, but nobody has that like the old style phone so much. So it's the number. It's really 855-346-6529.
Okay, we're going to go to break, Andy. We come back. God, I've got so many questions for you. We'll be right back with more Ask the Experts.
If you're a timeshare owner, you've likely been bombarded with advertisements on radio or TV to buy, sell, or cancel your timeshare. Some of these commercials often play on emotion and fear of the unknown. You deserve to know your rights as a consumer, and if you have a timeshare problem, the FinLaw Group can help. With the FinLaw Group and attorney Andy Meyer, over the last 10 years, our firm has been assisting individuals just like you resolve their disputes with timeshare companies. Getting out of a timeshare isn't easy, but it can be done legally and professionally with an attorney who will fight for your rights. We are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and have earned the trust and respect of our clients for over a decade with a team of attorneys and a combined experience of over 75 years of practice. Timeshare problem? We can help you today. Give the FinLaw Group a call for a completely free, no obligation consultation at 855-346-6529. That's 855-346-6529. Appointments are available by phone or Zoom. We are back. Now, with more of the Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law LLC, covering South Florida.
Thank you, Miss Dawn. We're here. This is the Ask the Expert show. We're with you for your drive home every Thursday night from 6 to 7. This is our 7th year with Ask the Experts here in South Florida. We have markets across the country. We are here tonight with attorney Andy Meyer with FinLaw, and we're talking about, I got to tell you, in 7 years, I have never done a show on getting out of timeshare, but we've probably had 30 or 40 people tell us to add a show like this. So I am so glad we've got the FinLaw Group people and Andy Meyer, and I am learning so much about this. And one of the things I've learned is you better get a lawyer. Don't try to do this yourself. So, Andy, so if I sit down with you, and I understand there are no guarantees. Can you look at a contract and tell me if I have a chance to get out of it, or is that not how it works?
Yes, it is how it works. I look at your documents. One of the lawyers or staff at the office help us get the packages together, and we look those over. And of course, you won't be surprised to know that each resort uses the same types of contracts. They tend to be the same. So the way the transactions are structured tend to be the same across a resort. Now, each resort will have a slightly different twist or spin on how they set it up. And of course, there's changes over time. But these are the things that we watch. And because we have such a volume of people coming through, we recognize and see as things evolve and they change the way they're doing business. And so that's exactly right, Steve. We look at the particular contract you have, the particular resort, when you bought, and based upon that, can tell you, a sense of what we think we can do for you. And the thing about it is you got to be patient. It's not a quick and easy
I would think so,
fix
right?
usually, right? I mean, there are exceptions, of course, to that rule, and sometimes we have great luck early, and that's fantastic. But one of the things we tell people when they call us is, you got to be in it for the long haul. It's not necessarily a quick turnaround type of thing. And so that's why you were mentioning before, I think, having an attorney with you is helpful, because if it's going to be something that you're going to deal with for a while, having a lawyer worrying about it on your behalf allows you to kind of take it out of your mind. Before I turned to doing timeshare law, I did different types of legal work. And that was one of the things that, I would tell clients is that you're giving me this legal problem so that I can worry about it and you can worry about it less.
Yeah.
And that's really one of the benefits of having a lawyer taking over your problem is you can say, okay, I know this is a problem and I'm not going to forget that it's a problem, but I'm going to think that FinLaw Group's got it in their hands and they're going to help me take care of it. And that can give me some peace of mind while we get the thing
Andy,
resolved.
do you have to ever litigate?
We do, yes. So sometimes we have sued the resorts, and sometimes resorts have sued our clients. And when that happens, we'll defend the client. And sometimes, in instances, have brought countersuits on behalf of clients against timeshare developers. We try to avoid that if possible,
Of course.
because anybody who's had experience with the court system and litigation knows that it's slow and time consuming and stressful and expensive. And really, that's not your best option, probably, but it's always on the table, of course. Something that, and certainly can happen. If you are stop paying on your timeshare, for instance, we know resorts that are out there that will turn around and sue you.
Wow.
And some of them will go after you for just not just what getting the timeshare interest back, but some resorts will try to get money out of you as well on the backside. Not typically, but it does happen.
If someone dies owning a timeshare, Andy, um, does it automatically pass down to the children?
This is a tricky question. You know, like so many legal things, Steve. It's a depends kind of answer. Some people do living trusts as an estate planning device, and they put the timeshare in a living trust. That can be a problem. Sometimes it does pass. It depends on the particular product. It depends on the state you live in and the particular rules of the state you're in when you pass. So if you are worried about a timeshare passing on to your children, you don't want them to have it, I would recommend you giving us a call. Or if your parents or loved ones have one, and you're worried about what's going to happen after they pass on. Am I going to be stuck with this thing? That's something we're happy to talk to you about and help you understand what the risks are and what you can do. It's timeshare can be sticky. Another place it's surprisingly sticky is in the bankruptcy context. Some folks
Uh,
think, they have a really tough time. You're going to file for bankruptcy, and they're just going to get rid of that timeshare. And if you're not careful, and if it's not done properly, you can find yourself on a nasty surprise that you didn't fully get rid of it. Because we were talking about before, Steve, the timeshare has two pieces. You own the interest, but you also have an obligation to pay ongoing maintenance fees. And so what'll happen sometimes in the bankruptcy is you don't get rid of the interest, you get rid of the past due maintenance fees. You come on the backside of the bankruptcy, and now new maintenance fees are due
right.
because you didn't get rid of the thing, and that can be a nasty, nasty surprise for people. So if you're thinking about filing a bankruptcy and you have a timeshare, that's another reason to give us a ring. We work with bankruptcy lawyers to help make sure that timeshare interest gets dealt with and truly extinguished through a bankruptcy, if at all
I know
possible.
you're not a family attorney, but what happens in a divorce? I mean, who gets the timeshare?
Boy, isn't that something? That's just it's something that nobody wants.
Right.
Typically.
I mean, do they
We
both
see this.
usually want it or one out of it?
Yeah, typically it's I don't want it. I want the other one to pay for it. And this is the problem. We see this sometimes when folks have been divorced, people have been divorced, and then they come to us when the ex-spouse is getting the bill and saying, "Hey, this isn't my problem. You bought this stupid thing. I didn't want it. Remember, I told you not to buy it." And these things happen. So best would be if you reach out to us before the divorce or get us in touch with your divorce attorney to tackle the timeshare interest before the divorce is finalized. But that's not always possible. Of course, that's a tough time in people's lives, and they got a lot of things to worry about. Timeshare is probably not top of the list,
Right.
but we can handle even on the backside of a divorce.
We've got a pandemic supposedly still going on, and there's a lot of people who are getting, COVID. What happens if somebody gets sick? What is their timeshare obligation?
So typically what's been happening is the obligation to pay maintenance fees continues. So whether you use or don't use your particular points or week in interest, um, by and large, you're still on the hook, even though you were sick. And happens with people who have, not COVID, but maybe they come down with a cancer diagnosis
Right.
or some other, serious disease, and they think, well, goodness gracious, I used to be able to travel a lot, but now I'm not going to be able to, or my loved one is now come down with something, and I need to care for them. I'm not going to be able to travel, and unfortunately, there's a lot of times when the resort says, well, that's unfortunate for you, but you still owe us, you still own this thing, and you're still obligated to pay for it.
Well, there's got to be also regulatory I guess, agencies that watch over your business or the timeshare business?
Yes. So here in Florida, timeshare is regulated by several different agencies. The Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation has jurisdiction over timeshare. Believe it or not, the Florida Department of Agriculture, the Consumer Affairs Division, also has jurisdiction over timeshare. And of course, the Attorney General's office has jurisdiction. There's a whole chapter of the Florida statutes that governs timeshare sales. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier, within the sale itself, there's all kinds of laws and regulations that are implicated, not only state, but also federal, because there's typically financing going on, and there's a lot of things that come into play. And it's a very complicated transaction, it turns out. Sometimes we even have with the points, a thing that makes every lawyer cringe. It's called the Uniform Commercial Code. Sometimes that applies in a timeshare transaction, and that's a whole ball of wax of itself.
Well, there's our music. We gave you 40 minutes tonight of the best Ask the Expert show. If you want to call FinLaw, call them tomorrow. 855-346-6529. That's 855-346-6529, and tell them that you heard it on the Ask the Expert show. And we'll be back next Thursday, and Andy will be back with us next month with more Ask the Experts. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for tuning in today to Ask the Experts, sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lort of Lort Law, LLC. Join host Steve-O again next Thursday for more interviews with the top experts in South Florida in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement on Ask the Experts.
The opinions expressed on the